Our second speaker is Secretary General of the Belgian-based network POLIS, which connects a lot of cities around Europe and beyond. He's going to be talking about implementing innovation in urban and regional transport to achieve policy objectives. It's my great pleasure now to introduce Mr. Sylvain Haon.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the invitation to speak at the OPTIMISM final conference. I will try to be not too long, so we can keep time to discuss. I think that would be very interesting. I'm very glad I'm speaking after Randa, who's done such a wonderful presentation, because I will give a very different perspective, but I would say I agree with all what she said. So keep it in mind, because that's quite important, I think, for what comes afterwards. I will talk about implementing innovation in urban and regional transport to achieve policy objectives. The three important words are implementing here. I would like to really focus on the implementation part and bring into the picture the objectives. Why do we want to bring in innovation? Why are we trying to implement new solutions? Yeah, okay, this way. Sorry, that's not the right way. This one. Oh, okay. Can you go? Let's keep the animations. Keep going. Okay, so I will go quickly on this. Just to tell you who I am, in charge of POLIS. POLIS, for those of you who don't know it, I recognize quite a few faces, so I will be very brief. An association, so a network of European cities and regions, mainly European, working on innovation and transport. We work in helping our members identifying common challenges and working on implementing the new solutions for a more sustainable and efficient transport system at the urban and regional level, facilitating the exchange of experience between them, supporting their participation in European initiatives, and supporting their message toward the European institutions and policy. And we work on the whole spectrum of challenges related to local transport, whether it has to do with environment and health, mobility and traffic efficiency, and especially ICT here, safety and security, or the economic and social aspects of transport. The next one. My title says implementing to achieve policy objectives. What are those policy objectives? Of course, they differ depending on regions and cities, but you can find some common ones, and actually they have a lot of similarities. They are fine-tuned locally. And what are they? They're about reducing congestion. We know we've reached level of congestions which have become unsustainable in some cities, which are beyond the level of congestion for which the tools we have to manage transport have been designed. And that's an important, interesting part. We don't have the tools anymore to address this level of congestions, or in many cases or in many places that we had in the past. It's another objective containing the impact on the local and global environment. Local, it's air quality and noise. Don't forget, air quality directives are probably the single piece of European legislation which has been the most influential on the evolution of urban transport. We talk a lot about climate change, it is, and correctly, but the legally binding piece of legislation which is putting pressure on the mayors is the air quality directive. Safety and security, supporting the economic growth of the territory. Health is coming into the picture in relation to air quality, in relation to noise, that's quite obvious, but also in relation to active travel. So what are the health benefits of actually encouraging walking and cycling, where they are very significant, and you can put a number on this. And that's quite interesting. And of course, we can't forget, and I think we won't forget anymore in the future, the economic context. And it's beyond the question of the crisis. It's about the pressure on the public finances at the local level, and the level of public finance which is available and will be available for local transport versus other policies. And this, I'm not too optimistic about it, which means we have to deliver at a lower cost, or at least without expecting, in many places, huge increases. We can have on short term because investments which are needed. But we have to do more basically with less, really. We just don't have a solution here, another solution in transport. So that means we have to be smart, we have to use innovation. It's not only about technology, it's also about other elements. I think Wanda touched upon this, and I will come back and I'm sure we'll discuss it afterwards. But we have to know where we focus on efforts and why we focus on efforts on some policies, some innovations, and not on some others. So we have to know the impact of what we do. I think that was in one of the optimism first slides that I saw after the presentation, so I'm quite happy we are converging. Assessing the impact is very important. It's not only about a nice, new, fancy idea. What is going to be the impact of implementing a solution or a technology on my objectives? This is what the director for transport, this is the answer the director for transport of a city has to answer to his politician. Yes, you want a better traffic management system, but I promised I was going to improve air quality. What is the impact on this? Well, we don't have so much evidence. So what we're doing in POLIS, we're trying to work or encourage others to work, because we're not researchers, on this. An example is the former Conduits project, which is now running beyond the length of the European project, which shows that some European projects are delivering very long, very lasting results beyond the period of funding. The project's idea came from cities who said, I need a tool to assess the impact of some ITS solutions on a certain number of indicators which are related to the policy objectives. So the project developed the indicators. You have a brief picture illustration of the indicators, and then modeled with real data from cities the impact of some measures. One of the first and more telling examples is modeling giving priority at street lights to a bus on a certain bus route, bus 49 in Brussels, and assessing the impact of this. And the impact is, well, indeed, it's increasing the average speed of the bus. Good, that's what we wanted. Indeed, it's reducing the number of stops at intersections. Well, two of course, related. Very good, that's what we expected. But it's also increasing pollution. So I need to deal with that. It's understandable, and it's not bad. And it doesn't mean you don't have to do it. It means you have to do it as part, you have to support it with other measures. If you don't really assess the impact of this measure, you're not able to know what are all the effects, and you don't have the good information to take the decision. Another example of what we're working on is a project called ICT Emissions, which is currently running, which is also about assessing the impact of ITS, in this case on CO2 emissions specifically. So what is the impact of in-cars, for instance, system on ICT systems on CO2 emissions? And that's our partners from the vehicle industry which are working on that with universities. What is the impact of ITS measures at the network level on CO2 emissions? And one of the cases we're looking into is variable speed limits on the ring road of Madrid. And working on this will develop first tools, because then we have a methodology, then we have a model which can run as in Conduits, and that's very interesting. But also, we can also develop recommendations for other cities and compare these things. We need these hard facts to be able to justify investments in some systems, in some cities. Next slide. I talked about the context, and I said we'll have an increasing pressure on public finance. We have to deal with this, and we have to look for smart solutions. One of those is to work with open systems. One of the challenges for cities, especially when it comes to traffic management, is that they've had to work in some cases with proprietary system. So you choose a supplier, great, but then you have to upgrade your system, then you want to add new functionalities, and you're locked in with a supplier, and you cannot anymore play the competition. It's a bit like the Windows, Apple, Linux story, to make it very, maybe too simple. When it comes to traffic management, we had Urban Traffic Management Control in the UK, which has developed a number of tools, UTMC, to move towards open systems for traffic management and control. In Germany, we had something relatively similar, a bit different, but without going into the details, which is OTS, sorry. And what we're doing in POLIS, is working with both, trying to first transfer the knowledge they've gathered, their experience, their methods, especially towards other cities in Europe, and we're doing that in the POSI project, but also see how we can converge, all those processes can converge at the European level to increase and accelerate the deployment of open systems. A city such as Vienna decreased the cost of traffic management by 30% because they progressively move towards open systems. So that is very significant and that is important. There was a lot about ITS, so let's change topic and let's bring another dimension that was mentioned several times already, which is business models and partners. We know introducing clean vehicles can help to achieve some of the objectives. I really would like to avoid the whole debate about electromobility and CO2 emissions, etc., which is a very valid one, but maybe not for today. But there are certainly at least cases in which introduction of electric vehicles is going to be beneficial for a certain number of policy objectives. How do you support the deployment of electric vehicles? What is the role of the public authority? And that's a real challenge cities and regions are facing today. Do they have to pay for the infrastructure? Do they have to just to be catalyst? What type of incentives can they provide? Well, one thing is for sure, they can't do it alone. They need to do it through partnership between the various public actors and partnership with industry, whether it's vehicle manufacturers, especially the energy supply industry, and possibly other players. And here, again, keeping in mind the pressure on the public finance, there is no way around looking for new partnerships and new business models. And what is interesting today is that when you go in various cities across Europe, you see various models emerging, whether it's Amsterdam, Rotterdam, or in Barcelona, or in Emilia-Romagna, in Italy. You have various models for supporting especially the infrastructure of the charging infrastructure for electric vehicles, with different type of partnerships, different type of incentives. And we really have to look into this. This is key for the deployment of electric vehicles. Of course, now we have to keep in mind that there is a European directive, which is probably also going to play an important role in stimulating this evolution. That's very much echoes what Vanda was saying, but with different words. We're talking about people. I understood that it was mainly focusing on the movement of persons, and we should never forget that. We've probably forgotten that far too much in the past. It's not the movement of vehicles at the end of the day. It's about getting people from A to B, and we should not forget this. So we need to engage them, we need to address their needs, and we need to see how we can target behaviors for a more sustainable urban and regional transport system. At the end of the day, we know that a more efficient and sustainable transport system is going to be a system in which behaviors are different. So how do we achieve this? That's a major question. And that's also, I think, what is in what has been written in the white paper of the European Commission. Some conclusions. I mean, I hear a lot. Steve Jobs is very fashionable right now, and I think we have movies coming, and a lot of people quote him saying people don't know what they want until you show it to them. Well, yeah, but actually cities know what they want, and sometimes they can't find it on the market. So we also have to think that we don't always have to force solutions on the market. There is a demand side, and listening to the demand is also a good thing. And this is, I'm serious about this, is a real challenge. Whether we talk about ITS or whether we talk about vehicles, we have public authorities which are often on the demand side, often customers, and which have troubles in many cases finding what they would like to have on the market to achieve their policy objectives. So if I had a plea to the industry is work together with the public authorities to develop the solutions which are going to help them achieve the objectives. And there are more chances they will actually buy your products. Some other conclusions. Nothing should be considered in isolation, so we have to build the framework, and here I close a circle. Here at the beginning a reference to the SUMP award, which I thought was really good. We have to build the right framework which enables the implementation, the efficient implementation of innovation. First, policy. We have to support policy objectives At the same time, policy should not close the door to innovations. And maybe we'll talk about this later. Social media, open data, how can this be brought in an open way by the public authority? There has to be a planning framework which is inclusive. So we need to create a framework for successful implementation of innovative solutions, and the SUMPs are indeed probably the right tool at the local level. Integration, no new solutions can be isolated. I showed it in the burst priority, but this is true for many other cases. It's a package, and it's we heard Vanda say it's the human plus the vehicle plus the infrastructure. It's really a package. It's not one thing. And finally, my last conclusion will be really we need to engage the people. It's a key to success to engage them if we want to achieve changes in behavior, possibly with technology or with other type of solutions. Thank you very much.